Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be talking about how we can transform performance management using generative AI. My name is Nathan Childress. I'm the CEO and founder of Macorva, and we are an employee engagement and customer experience feedback company. So a little bit about me to get started, and this can also be thought of, why should you be listening to me talk about generative AI and how we can use it for performance management and employee engagement? My background is a very technical background. I have degrees in chemical engineering, nuclear engineering, and medical physics. I played a little bit of high-stakes poker for fun in between some of that. And my first big real job out of school was in medical physics, which is treating cancer patients with radiation. I worked in a hospital for a little bit, and then I started a company that made software that did some calculations, it did some quality assurance to make sure that cancer patients that were being treated with radiation received the correct dose, received the correct plans, and generally their treatments went very well. That business, Mobius Medical Systems, went very well. We were acquired by Varian or Siemens Healthineers, and at that point I switched from being a manager of a small 30-40 person company to leading a big product development division and leading a cross-functional team of about 1,000 employees. And this was quite a big change. This change is really what made me to start Macorva. I realized that we needed to do a better job collecting employee feedback, collecting customer feedback, and then integrating that into next steps. And there's just so much opportunity there in collecting that feedback, turning it into action, that we really needed to make a new company to develop that area quite a bit more. So today we're going to talk about kind of where all that has led to, these years of development, years of technology. And we're going to start off with generative AI. I'm very passionate about generative AI. A lot of people are calling this Gen AI now. We're going to talk about its strengths, kind of some of its challenges. I'm going to talk about why we want to use AI in performance management. And this is not because we want robots to take over managing people. It's because we want to make things better, quicker, easier, more efficient. I want to talk about what data is behind these performance documents, because anytime you talk about AI, you really want to know what data are we using to input in that, and then what do we want to get out of it. And so that becomes a very important thing to start talking about. Let's talk about using generative AI in performance reviews. This is the really big category. It's what we spend so much time on. And let's talk about how we can use Gen AI to help with OKRs and SMART goals. And then finally, all this comes together, and how can improving all of this and using AI actually improve employee engagement? So, start from the beginning. Let's do a little bit of overview of generative AI. Everybody's talking about this. You've probably heard of generative AI in the news quite a bit. You've heard, of course, of ChatGPT, which is good and bad. It's good because it gets everybody to talk about it. It's bad because it's not really what we want to use for businesses. But the underlying technology behind ChatGPT, these large language models, this generative AI, that is extremely, extremely helpful, and it represents this really groundbreaking part of AI that can start to transform business. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. So what can Gen AI do for you? One of the things I like to say is it can summarize things very well. It can summarize unstructured data. It can summarize large amounts of text. So if you have dozens of pages, hundreds of pages of documents that you need a quick summary of, or a long summary, an in-depth summary, something that references that original data over and over again, generative AI is perfect to do this. It will do in a couple seconds what it could take hours or days to do traditionally. It can then create things. It can create some insights, some next steps. It's trained with a lot of professional business data of saying, look, when we have these types of employee behaviors, these types of surveys, these types of feedback we get from people, here are some next steps. It works very, very well for connecting these types of feedback points into action, and can kind of start really helping people know, okay, here's what the standard process is according to this wide amount of research for these next steps. The other really neat thing is that it can be rapidly rolled out. It is coming to us in this era of cloud deployment. And so that means that it's not something that we're going to have to wait for 5 or 10 years for it to, build up in order for it to be at the scale where it can operate on enterprise data. It's there right now. It's ready to be rolled out to everyone immediately. And that's one of the really cool things about this cloud deployment. So let's get really into it. Let's talk about some dollars and cents and what Gen AI can actually do for your business. Of course, people have heard about productivity. Of course, the headlines, are always going to say the biggest, boldest claims of it's going to put everybody out of work. It's not going to put anybody out of work. It's going to, all of these things. But in practicality, what we really want to talk about for these next 5 years is it going to make people more productive? And how much can it increase their productivity? And this is really where combining it for performance documents makes a whole lot of sense. It is able to really help productivity because of those things we were talking about that last slide. The other thing we don't hear nearly as much about, but what I'm personally really excited about Gen AI in business is that it actually increases the quality of what we do. I don't want to just think, okay, how many people are going to have more time, are going to be able to reduce staffing. That's really not the point here, especially coming from a medical background. When I see new technology, I think, okay, great. I can save people time. I can free up their day to do things that they actually want to do, that they're actually passionate about. And can I also increase the quality of the work we're doing? And Gen AI is really great for increasing quality as well as reducing productivity. So I don't want to just think about how can we reduce staff, how can we save money? That can be part of it on a large scale as we roll this out to other areas. But really, I really want to focus on how are we going to increase quality and do a better job going forward. Part of that is a data-driven culture. Gen AI is AI. It's going to look at the facts. It's going to look at all these data points and reference them. And now we're going to create these performance documents that have a really good basis around them. So what's the catch? Security. Implementing Gen AI securely, you need to use secure APIs. Everybody knows ChatGPT. It's great. It's fantastic, but it's not secure. And the good news is there are things that are secure, and that's why you need to make sure your software vendor understands that and they're using it correctly. Implementation. It's going to require a lot of automation, a lot of compatibility. And a lot of these legacy systems that we're using in companies, they don't have a lot of automation built in. There's a lot of things you have to do in order to integrate AI very well. And so you're either going to need to integrate your existing systems with a new system or migrate to a new system if you really want to take advantage of what generative AI can do. Accuracy. This is another way of just saying testing. Anytime you're going to use AI to make things, you want to double check. You want to make sure that what it's creating is actually useful. And kind of a good example of this, let's pick on ChatGPT just for a little bit, because this is a funny example. I asked ChatGPT, create an ASCII art version of the Mona Lisa. And it says, I may not be the best at doing that, but here's what I got. And it gave me this picture. And this picture is hilariously bad. But, we can look at this and be like, that clearly is nothing like the Mona Lisa. It's not even anything close to what you could use these ASCII characters to make a good picture of the Mona Lisa. And it's just kind of funny right here. But when you're actually using this technology in business APIs and you expect automation to help your employees, to help your customers, to actually make you more productive, to increase your quality, this is not what you want to see. So it's funny to see here, but this is why we have to always be aware of when we're sticking in generative AI in this automated process, we're going to have to go back. We're going to have to check. We want to check in a variety of situations to make sure that what it's giving us is a good answer. And this is why I always say too, everything we do at Macorva, we don't just use AI and then send it out to a customer, send it out to an employee. It is an intermediate step to help you get there. So let's really talk about how Gen AI is going to be useful for performance management. Big picture, what do we want when we combine Gen AI and performance management? Well, as we talked about before, we want to increase productivity. On average, managers spend about 200 hours a year on performance management. That is a huge amount of time on things that honestly, they don't really like to do in general. Gen AI, by doing the first draft of all these documents, by pouring through all this data, can cut that in half. Quality. I want to see the quality increased in everything we do. I want to see data-driven documents produced. I want to see rich evidence. I want to see references back to these original data points. I want to be able to put in these dozens, these hundreds of pages of documents and have AI summarize and reference what it does. I want to see the AI show its work when we make these performance management documents. And again, provide that with a high quality explanation. I want that done consistently. I want that done. Every employee deserves amazingly high quality, consistent performance documents, and I want that deployed uniformly across the organization. Right now, we have some managers that are amazing at this, some managers that maybe aren't as amazing at this. I want every manager to have an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, a 10 out of 10 on all these documents. And what does that lead to? Higher employee satisfaction. No one likes seeing any of these employee performance reviews or documents kind of thrown together at the last minute. It really shows, it really hurts that employee morale. So let's really take a step back. Okay, we said that's really cool. I really like what we're trying to accomplish. What do we need as we think about AI? What does the AI need to do its job well? And there's a lot of things. When you look at this list, 360 feedback, engagement surveys, team engagement, customer feedback, trends, org chart, sales data, attendance, direct manager insights, self-assessments, company objectives, department objectives, learning growth programs. That's a lot of data that we need to feed in this AI. But one of the cool things is this really just exists in a couple platforms. Your feedback platform, like Macorva, your employee and customer feedback, has everything in that left column. Your HRIS and some of your other platforms already have your sales data, your attendance data. And then you just have to have your performance system collect those manager insights. And the good thing is company objectives, department objectives, whatever programs you have available at your company, that's kind of a one and done. That you need to set that up one time for your whole company, and then the AI knows all about that for everyone. So it's a little bit of a manual import, but it's done one time in a couple of hours. So once you connect all of this diverse data together, you're ready to go off to the races. You're ready to put all this into AI and say, please help us out. Let's do everything we saw in that last slide and let's do a great job. So let's get to the meat of things. Performance reviews. This is what everyone cares about. This captures the entire full picture of an employee's performance. Maybe it's done quarterly, semi-annually, annually. I know people are trying to get away from the annual performance reviews, but it takes so much time. Who can do that? It's great to say we're just going to have monthly reviews or something, but look, it's typically tied to compensation. It typically takes a huge amount of time to do this, and so we can't get away from doing it once a year. Well, AI can help. AI can, again, pour through all that data we just saw on that last screen. It doesn't matter if it's dozens of pages, hundreds of pages. It can pour through, it can summarize, it can say, here are the highlights, and it can make a first draft of a performance review that's amazing. It's going to make a first draft of a performance review that is as good as your best manager is able to make. It's really cool when you see this in action. It helps managers out because managers, we still, of course, want their insights. And so, as you can kind of see in this picture, they can type notes. They can say, look, operational efficiency's up. Susan did a great job here and here. But they don't have to worry about what words they're using. They can just say, here are my insights, and they can just gather that, put that into notes, and then click a button, and then actually use that with all that previous data to generate a performance review. When an employee looks at this, it's meaningful to them. It means everything in their work environment. They want to see something that's personalized, thoughtful, constructive, not put together last minute. Gen AI is amazing at doing this, and people's minds just get blown when they see what these performance reviews look like. Development plans. Along the same lines, we want to incorporate company objectives, training programs, learning resources. Again, we're going to import that in the system one time, and then we're going to be able to use that and connect it to every individual employee and have the managers kind of say, hey, look, I know we have something that helps with disorganized employees. Joe is a little bit disorganized. He needs to take a course to help with that. He needs to learn more about our company's return policies. And so we have a document that specifies all these things we have, and we just need to link that to individual employees and create this nice plan for employees. AI is fantastic at doing this. It results in a huge time savings. It takes these free-form notes and ideas, puts it together with company resources, company objectives, and then produces this fantastic development plan that's personalized to every employee, just takes a few seconds to generate, and then the manager can go through and say, I like this, this, and this, and I want to add this, delete this. It is an enormous time saving, and it also results in the coolest development plan employees have seen. It looks like someone spent 10 hours, 20 hours making the development plan instead of just a few seconds. And it's really able to actually use all these dusty resources that you have in your LMS system and your other things. It's able to actually bring those to life because this generative AI can pair all those resources one by one to employees who need it the most and create a plan, a learning plan, a development plan, personalized to every single employee you have in a matter of seconds. OKRs and SMART goals. Everybody hates making these. They're so important. They're going to be what the employees judged on. And really, employees want to be aligned with their corporate values, with where the company's going. But it's so time consuming to sit there and type out all these goals and to make them into these little deliverables. Again, this is where AI really, really excels, is you pull in, here are my company objectives, here are my department objectives. Here is what this person's been doing great at. Here's what they need to do better at. AI, give me a first draft of, I'm going to ask for 6 goals, and then I'm going to manually trim that down to 3 and edit them. And in about 10 or 20 minutes, I used AI, I edited the list of goals, I revised them a little bit, and I now have this fantastic document that my employee is going to look at and say, wow, again, this must have taken a lot of time. I feel valued because I feel like this is a great plan for me. I feel like this is a good way for me to see how my career can progress. This is all well and good. What about when things don't go well? When we have to do a PIP? I'd say one of the worst things about PIPs, of course, in addition to having to do them in the first place, is the documentation. It's the whole process. And so AI is really good at saying, here is the structure we want. Please make a document customized to this person's case. Again, one button click, you can generate a really, really detailed several page document that hits every point that you want, is personalized to that employee, has that personalized development plan, and gives managers a fantastic start in just a few seconds. And you know that it has all of your company objectives in there and your company policies and procedures. And we can even reference, here's what policies and procedures were violated. Here's how we're going to remediate them. Again, just a much faster way to do the same thing and make sure we're really well documented and we're linking individual employees to company policies and procedures. So what does the future performance management workflow look like? And this is what we built in Macorva. So when I say future, this is not 10 or 20 years from now. This is right now. Again, this can be implemented. The biggest thing is we need managers to add their insights. They need to type notes. We want to hear their notes. We want to hear what is good, what's bad about every employee, what needs to happen. We don't want them to spend time worrying about how they're saying this. We just want their insights. And then click a button because IT, because HR has set up all of these data sources behind the scenes to integrate together, and AI is going to combine everything for them. And what do they end up with? In a few seconds, they're going to end up with a draft, a first draft that looks amazing, that instead of them spending 4 or 6 or 8 or 16 hours on a performance review, they're going to get a first draft in a few seconds, and they're going to look at that and then spend maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes just massaging it, and it's going to end up with this amazing draft that employee is going to really appreciate. So you add all this together, and what does it do? It increases employee engagement. What drives employee engagement? Well, you think engaged employees say things like, I feel motivated, I can make a difference. I have opportunities for growth and development. I know I'm valued. I clearly understand my role and impact on this organization. When you think When employees see these documents that are just extraordinarily well created and are personalized to them and just connect all the dots with company resources, company goals, exactly what they've been doing. Now you all of a sudden, when employees look at these performance management documents, they start saying things that align exactly with employee engagement. They start saying things like, wow, the unbiased feedback and cited examples in this performance review is motivating for me. This development plan mirrors what I want to do, my desired growth plan, and kind of outlines my career path really well. I really align with this. I like that my manager recognized how I integrate with across departments and how I have these wide positive impacts. And these goals that I see in front of me are challenging but realistic, and they're really helping the company get to where we want to go. I see where I fit in. And you start doing this now with hundreds, with thousands of employees, and this is how you change employee engagement. The survey does not change employee engagement. The survey lets you know where you're at. The survey gives you big pictures. But once we start taking little pieces from that survey, integrating with all this other data, integrating with generative AI, putting that power in every manager's hands to influence every employee you have, that is how you change employee engagement at your company. So I'm going to leave you these big questions. What if you could have the best manager in your company do every performance review, development plan, and goals? How is that going to affect your employee engagement? What value do you think that brings to your company? And how amazing, just on a personal level, would it look if you're the one that brought that change to your organization? And that's really what we do at Macorva, is we use generative AI to accomplish just that by making these amazing first drafts that combine all this disparate data that you already have into something that's personalized to every employee and is going to really align and motivate with them. So in conclusion, Gen AI performance management is, to me, one of the most amazing use cases of Gen AI in business. It's going to really help your efficiency. I mean, this is going to save all of your managers 100 hours a year easily, and it's the 100 hours a year of things they don't like to do. They're going to be so happy when HR says we have a new tool to help you do all of this. It is one of the things that when HR announces we have new software, all managers are going to look and be like, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing this to me. It's going to really up the quality of all these performance documents, which leads to boosted engagement. And it leads to better alignment between what your individual employees are doing and where your company is going. And again, it's this beautiful, innovative approach that really brings everything together. It integrates all these diverse data sources. It empowers managers, and you actually get to witness a surge in employee satisfaction. First of all, manager satisfaction, because they're spending less time doing things they don't want to. And second of all, employee satisfaction, because again, how do we change employee engagement across a company? We have to change what every employee does and feels. And that means we have to do better in performance management. We have to do better at giving their managers resources. We can't just have a company-wide incentive that says, we're going to have free coffee in the mornings now. I hope our engagement's better. We have to make a personal change to every employee, and using Gen AI for performance management is one of the biggest punches we can do to accomplish that right away.